Hi, and welcome back. It's so good to see you. It's been a while. It really has. Welcome to Dadgames Teaches Pokemon. I'm your host, Dadgames. Like I said, it's been a minute since we've done one of these videos, and I figured with the release of the new game, it's about time that we do one of these again. So I'm back. I'm going to finish the series. Now, when we started the series, we started on Sword and Shield. Obviously, that's the last generation, so we're going to pick up with Scarlet and Violet. There might be going back on some of the old videos and kind of updating what they were. As some mechanics may or may not have changed. We'll kind of talk about some of that stuff later on down the road. But we are going to continue and hopefully this time actually finish this series on Dadgames Teaches Pokemon. I'm your host, Dadgames. Nice to meet you. I play a lot of Pokemon, like a lot of Pokemon. I also stream a lot of Pokemon and have recently kind of started getting into the competitive scene. So, that's a little bit about me. I've been playing Pokemon for over 20 years, and I figured, you know what, there are a lot of people who probably for getting into Pokemon for the first time, and they might actually like a little, beginner's course. There are a lot of guides out there, but this one's kind of a take-by-take on a bunch of the different aspects. Today, we are going to be talking about weather and terrain. All right, now first of all, weather and terrain are two different things that affect the battlefield that you're currently in. All right. We're going to have some examples of this here in a little bit, but weather and terrain are kind of like things that you can do to change up the battlefield a little bit. Weather is the stuff that affects sky and air. All right. That's a very important thing because terrain affects the ground. You can't have both a weather and a terrain up when you're doing Pokemon battles. Like I said, we're going to have a little bit of examples of this here in a second, but you can't have like the sun, harsh sunlight and grassy terrain. You can't have rain and psychic terrain. All right, what you can't have is two weathers and two terrains. So I can't have both the sun and the rain. There are two different ways to set up weather and terrain. The first is using a Pokemon move. So there are a bunch of Pokemon moves for each of the different terrains and weathers, just like there are a bunch of different moves for everything else. If you want a little update on moves, go watch my moves video. It's actually a pretty good video, honestly. I think so anyways. Then there are abilities. Some Pokemon have inherent abilities that allow them to immediately change the weather as soon as they enter the battlefield. One that comes to mind immediately is Pelipper. Pelipper has Drizzle, which which changes the weather to terrain. Another one is Arboliva, who has grassy terrain set whenever it gets hit. So as soon as it gets hit with a physical move, it sets grassy terrain. So there are abilities that also allow the terrain and the weather to get set. So we're going to go into all of the different weathers, and we're going to get into all of the different terrains. It's going to be a little bit lengthy and a little bit wordy. I'm sorry, but there are a lot of nuances to the weathers and terrains that aren't ever really explained. Like if you look at the Pokemon moves, for instance, Sunny Day sets harsh sunlight. That's basically all it says, but there are a whole bunch of other effects that happen that I didn't know for a long time, and I feel like going into them is worth a little bit of your time. It takes a little bit of time and it takes a little bit of effort to make these videos, and I really do try hard in scripting and making these videos and editing and all of that stuff. I really work hard on all of this. I've really worked hard on a lot of different things. So it would do me a great honor if you could like and subscribe this video. Anyways, please, like I said, please like and subscribe. Let's get into it. All right, the first one up that we're going to talk about is harsh sunlight. This one is a big one. So we're going to pull up our little thing here. As it gets set, there are a few Pokemon that I like to use to set harsh sunlight. One of them is a very popular one to set sunlight, and that is Torkoal. Torkoal has an ability that allows the sunlight to be set. So I'm just going to get into some random battles here in just a second. But harsh sunlight is set with abilities like Drought and moves like Sunny Day. So Torkoal is one of those, has Drought. It allows the move to, or allows the weather to instantly change into harsh sunlight. A few things that harsh sunlight does is it boosts up fire type moves. So if you use fire type attacks in the sun, it's gonna give those power boosts. Water moves are reduced. 1 second, let's get into a battle here. Apologize for the noise. Those are my dogs losing their ever-loving minds because of my cat. All right, so there's fire type moves are boosted. Water type moves are reduced. 2-turn powerful grass type moves such as Solar Beam and Solar Blade no longer need charging and can be used consecutively. Healing moves like Synthesis, Morning Sun, and Moonlight are more effective. Thunder and Hurricane accuracies are reduced. The ability Orichalcum Pulse not only activates Sunlight, but also increases the user's attack stat. Pokemon with the ability like Chlorophyll get a speed increase. Pokemon with the ability Leaf Guard are immune to status condition. Pokemon with the ability Solar Power will lose HP but gain special attack. And Pokemon with the ability Dry Skin also lose HP and are weaker to Fire type move. So those are kind of what some of the things that Drought does. As you can see in that previous battle, I'll get into another one. So you can see in that previous battle, it sets up that Sunlight. As soon as Torkoal comes in, that Drought activates and sets up that Sunlight. Here it goes again. Boom. You can see Drought. Now the Sunlight turned harsh. And it kind of does that weird halo-y thing that tells you that you are in a harsh Sunlight. Which, again, boosts the power of Fire type moves. Is one of the big ones right there. So that's a little bit about Harsh Sunlight. Very effective if you're running teams that require fire type moves or grass type moves. Both have a tendency to run fairly well in the grass. The next one we're going to talk about is Rain. All right. Rain is set up by moves like Rain Dance and abilities like Drizzle. Immediately, first thing I think about, like I said earlier in the video, first thing I think about when I see Drizzle is I think of Pelipper here. So Pelipper has an ability that sets Drizzle, which automatically lets the rain go. Some things about the rain. First of all, you can see it's raining. Pretty clear, pretty cut dry. One really cool thing about Scarlet and Violet is the weather around you can change. So if it's raining outside, when you get into battle, it's raining. If it's sandstorm, harsh sunlight outside, the battles that you start in the game are raining. Now, when you battle online, if that's something you choose to do, then you have to set these with abilities and stuff like that. But in the game, whatever weather it is whatever weather you're going to get. So, some things about the rain. Water type moves, power are increased. Fire type moves are cut in half. So, rain and harsh sunlight, toe to toe. Big thing when Groudon and Kyogre were going back and forth in competitive play. Solar Beam has to take an extra turn to charge. So usually Solar Beam's a 2-move turn, but in the rain it's a 3-move turn. Healing moves like Synthesis, Morning Sun, and Moonlight are less effective. Thunder and Hurricane bypass accuracy check, which is a big one. Hurricane is a strong move. All right, with base, you can kind of see the power and the accuracy right here. Accuracy being 70, the power being 110. Not very accurate as far as Pokemon moves, but it ignores that completely and hits every time, and that's a very powerful move to hit in the rain. Pokemon with the ability Swift Swim get a speed boost. The abilities Dry Skin and Rain Dish recover HP, and Pokemon with the ability Hydration will automatically cure status conditions, which is big. If you get set with a Paralyze in the rain, you got that Hydration, boom, Paralyze gone. All right, and here's a little example. Hurricane's just gonna come through and wreck this level 2 Psyduck. All right, the next one we're gonna talk about is Snow. All right, Snow sets up by moves like Snowscape and abilities like Snow Warning. Big one right here is Abomasnow. It's the one being used a lot to help set the snow. Now, something very important to think about with Snow is in previous generations, Sword and Shield back, it used to be Hail. All right, what Hail used to do is do kind of all the things that Snow kind of did and also damage your Pokemon every turn. So if you go back and you play Sword and Shield, you might not see Snow, you'll see Hail, and that's going to damage non-ice Pokemon every single turn. Snow, they took away that damage, and instead, they made Ice-type Pokemon's defense increase, which is big because that's really allowed a lot of Ice-type Pokemon to start becoming more viable in not just the, hey, I like to play this game. Blizzard bypasses accuracy checks, which means Blizzard's going to hit often. Healing moves like Synthesis, Morning Sun, and Moonlight are less effective. Pokemon with the ability Ice Body will have some of their HP restored every turn, and Pokemon with the ability Slush Rush get a speed boost. Pokemon with the ability Snow Cloak have higher evasiveness, which makes them harder to hit. So you can see it's snowing now. Hail used to be kind of like a little bit faster and big chunks of, well, hail. Now it's just, nice little powdery snow. And it's not going to hurt your Pokemon every turn. All it's really going to do is boost those ice moves a lot more. The next one we're going to talk about is Sandstorm. All right, now Sandstorm is a pretty cool move. Or terrain that I like to use. I like to use Tyranitar to really kind of set this one. Sandstorm can be set up by moves like Sandstorm and abilities such as Sandstream. What it does is ground, rock, and steel type Pokemon are immune to Sandstorm damage, but if you're not a ground, a rock, or a steel type, you're going to be taking damage every turn. Rock type Pokemon are going to get a special defense boost. Healing moves like Synthesis, Morning Sun, and Moonlight are less effective, but Shore Up recovers 50% of HP. Solar Beam loses some of its power, which is nice because Solar Beam is kind of a strong move to begin with. Ground, Rock, and Steel type with the ability Sand Force will gain strength, and Pokemon with Sand Veil are going to have higher evasiveness, while Pokemon with Sand Rush will get a speed boost. A really cool combo is the Houndstone with Sand Rush and Tyranitar Sandstream. You throw them both out, Sandstream goes up, and now all of a sudden you have a very fast Houndstone. So yeah, you can just see here that the Sandstorm's kind of going, it's kind of blowing. If this weren't such a weak Pokemon and it survived, it would also be taking damage because it's not a rock, ground, or steel type Pokemon. And that's kind of all your weathers. Those are all your weather setters. Yeah, so like I said, all of those kind of have to do with the air around you. That's a big one. Now we're going to start talking about terrain. All right, now terrain has to deal with the ground around you. Okay, so you can, like I said, you can have a weather setup and you can have a terrain down. In fact, we're going to show you an example of that right now, with our first one being electric terrain. This Pokemon right here, your legendary Miraidon. Oh my gosh, there we go. Your legendary Pokemon Miraidon is a really great example of electric terrain being set. So, electric terrain, you see the ground kind of turned yellow. That tells you that we're under an electric terrain. Now, electric terrain prevents Pokemon on the ground from sleeping and boosts the effectiveness of electric type moves on grounded Pokemon by 30%. Now, that's a very important sentence right there, and that is the grounded Pokemon. The Pokemon has to be touching the ground in order for the effectiveness for the boost to happen. If the Pokemon's flying, it's not touching the ground, doesn't get the boost. All right. So we're going to set Torkoal out here. It's going to set up Drought. Now you can see we have Drought going, a weather going, and a terrain going. So like I said, you can have both. You can have a terrain and weather. You just can't have two terrains and two weathers. They have to be different. But electric terrain is going to be really helpful, especially if you're dealing with a lot of electric type moves, or if you're dealing with someone who's constantly trying to put you to sleep. Setting up that electric terrain will kind of get rid of that. One that I'm not going to be able to show you at the moment, so we're just going to kind of talk about it, is grassy terrain. Now, all of these terrains are set by moves of the same typing. So, like, to set up electric terrain, you use the move electric terrain, or an ability that sets it up, which is usually called electric terrain or something like that. Grassy terrain, which is usually set up by our Bolivia kind of currently right now in the new generation, heals 6.25% HP of Pokemon on the ground per turn and increases the damage of grass type moves by 30%. So that's helpful. It's very important to note that grassy terrain is going to heal everyone on the field. It doesn't matter who, everyone on the field that's on the ground will get a 30%, or is that 6.25% HP boost. Another one that's to set up is the fairy type Misty Terrain. Misty Terrain protects Pokemon on the ground from status condition and halves damage from dragon types. So if you're facing down an opponent who's just throwing out dragon after dragon, setting up that Misty Terrain is going to be super duper helpful, cuts their moves in halves, and also prevents you from getting hit. Kind of gives you the good as gold ability that Goldengo has. And the last one we're going to talk about, I believe it's the last one. It is the last one. Is Psychic. Well, almost the last one. Is Psychic Terrain. Indeedee is a great use of the Psychic Terrain. Immediately comes out, hidden ability sets up the Psychic Terrain. Psychic Terrain prevents Pokemon on the ground from priority moves and powers up Psychic type moves by 30%. Priority moves are stuff like Sucker Punch, big one, where no matter how fast or slow your Pokemon is, it kind of always immediately jumps up to the front of the line. Psychic Terrain is going to prevent you from getting hit by a lot of those as long as your Pokemon are on the ground. And if you have a Psychic type, they're going to get a boost. Again, Indeedee is a great setter for this. The last one we're going to talk about is a special terrain that you can have, is the only one that you can kind of have two of. And that's called Trick Room. This terrain warps the field and makes slow Pokemon fast and fast Pokemon slow. So if you are getting outsped by a lot of things, you can take some time, set up Trick Room, and then all of a sudden you went from being last in the turn order to first in the turn order, which is a big deal. Because the person who hits first usually ends up being the winner. So Trick Room is kind of a good way to check speed on a lot of things. You can also have the different terrain set up in Trick Room. Trick Room is more of the entire field versus a specific terrain or weather. So those are kind of all of the terrains that we're talking about. Those are the different things. I know I didn't really have some examples for the last three, Grassy, Misty, and Psychic. But you kind of saw how all of them work. They all generally work along the same ideas as long as you know exactly what each of them does, which I just explained in this video, so that should help. Yeah, so go out there, use the weather to your advantage, be a weather trainer. I promise you there's some very cool things that you can do with weathers to really, really, really help you out and really, really get the edge on some of those fightings. I usually use more weather outside of the game, but I can say in this game, having used some weather in some of the fights has been super helpful, especially against some of those star people. I can't think of their names right now, but Team Star, there we go, the Team Star. So yeah, go out there, use the terrain to your advantage, go out there, be awesome, be the best trainer that you can be. Please like and subscribe to this video. Helps me a ton, really keeps me going, and really kind of helps the channel grow. Spread the love. All right, Dadgames Teaches Pokemon is a great way to, in my opinion, obviously because I'm making it, it's a great way to learn Pokemon. Honestly, I think it's a very broken down way where you can just kind of learn how to play the game and really kind of learn how to start taking things to the next level if that's where you want to go, or just kind of be better, especially if you start to get stuck. Please like and subscribe. I know I already said that, but it really does help out. Please follow any one of my other socials. You can catch me on Twitch, especially right now on Sundays. I stream a lot of Pokemon. So feel free to come watch, come hang out. It's always a good time. As always, guys, I will see y'all next time.